Well, hello everybody, it's Angie the Coder, and today I'm bringing you the fourth video in my 2021 EM Changes Deep Dive series, and it'll be all about medical decision making today. I want to be very open and candid with you and let you know that it has been a challenge getting this video uploaded. Finally, I had some technical problems with it, and I finally got it ready, edited and ready to upload today, and found out that YouTube will only allow me to upload 15-minute videos, and it was 60 minutes long. So I'm going to be presenting this video to you guys in 4 parts. The good news is you'll have them all hopefully at the same time. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to upload all 4 parts to this one video, so you can just kind of flip through them all. I do apologize for it being broken down into 4 mini videos. So without further ado, let's jump into the 2021 changes and talk all about medical decision making. All right, as usual with this series, we're going to have source documents, and the first source document is the one that I've been referring to the entire time, and that is the guide that the AMA created that has all the changes for the 2021 EM changes. So that is the first link. And the second link is going to be just the medical decision-making grid that we're going to take a look at today. Both of these links are in the description below the video. They will also be on my website, which is angiethecoder.com. So you'll be able to find these links there as well. All right. So we're going to just hop right into this grid I was telling you about. I'm going to go out there and show it to you. Okay, so here's the document. This is the MDM grid that I was telling you guys about. Now, I will let you know that this MDM grid is also in the source document, but there are page breaks in it, so it's not clean to make if you wanted to just print a copy of this or do a screenshot of that, there's not a very clean version. So what we're going to start with is we're going to start with a really quick brief overview of the 5 columns of this table. And what you'll notice right off the bat is you have 5 columns. 2 of them are by themselves, the first 2 on the left, and then you have 3 columns that fall under this header right here that says elements of medical decision making, and that's going to be important in just a second. So let's just go from the left to right, column to column. The first column is going to be where your CPT codes are, and if you'll notice, one of the things I've been crowing about since this started is that the levels line up. So whether your patient is new or established, everything lines up. 2s are 2s regardless, 3s are 3s regardless. Everything lines up nice and neat. It's easier to remember this way, and it's a lot less cumbersome. Column 2 is your level of MDM, and I'm going to zoom in on that a little bit. Remember I told you these 3 columns are going to be important, the ones that are called elements, and here's why. If you'll read in the parentheses, it says the level of MDM, and in parentheses it says based on 2 out of 3 elements of the MDM. So this column is based on 2 out of 3 of these columns. Does that make sense? So the elements are columns 3, 4, and 5. So your level is going to be based on meeting 2 of 3 out of columns 3, 4, and 5. So, and that's good news. Regardless of whether it's a new patient or established patient, it'll be a 2 of 3. 2 out of 3. Doesn't change. So that's your first 2 columns. Now we're going to kind of I'm going to look at columns 3, 4, and 5 sorted together real quick. Like I said, it's kind of challenging because it makes it so tiny when we do that. But columns 3, 4, and 5 are how you determine your level. They are called the elements of medical decision making. They should be pretty familiar to you because they're really based on, if you remember medical decision making from 1995 and 97 guidelines, your table A, B, and C. These are kind of based on tables A, B, and C, sort of. So the first one is the number and complexity of problems addressed. So that's how many problems did you address with this patient and how complex were they? The next column is how much data did you review? What labs did you order? What labs did you analyze? Did you order EKGs? Did you send the patient for an x-ray? That kind of thing, right? And then the last column is basically the overall risk to the patient's life and mortality and morbidity. So Remember, you only have to have 2 of 3. So let's say that you had a patient where you hit moderate on the problems addressed, and you hit nothing. Say you had nothing say you had to do no labs or anything like that in the next column, but then you were also moderate for the last column, then that's an overall moderate. And don't worry, we're going to do in more detail of this, but that's just sort of what I mean when I say 2 of 3. So that's just a brief overview. I do recommend that you print a copy of this up and get familiar with it. It looks familiar. It looks like stuff you've seen before, but there are going to be some differences. So you want to pay attention to that. All right, so now what we're going to talk about is definitions. As we go through each one of these columns in detail, and I really only have to go through columns 3, 4, and 5 in detail with you, but as we go through each one of these columns in detail, the AMA is taking the liberty of defining some of these terms that you're going to see, which they had not done previously, I don't believe. I don't remember seeing this, and I really appreciated them defining these terms. And it's going to be important to understand what they mean by some of this stuff as you are putting so much emphasis on medical decision making. Think about it. You don't have history or exam to fall back on, so you have to be accurate with your medical decision making. I mean, we had to be accurate before, but like I said, everything, if you're going to choose your level based on MDM instead of time, then everything is going to hinge on you doing this correctly and understanding these definitions. The good news is that these things are defined. Some of these terms are defined very well for you. So let me show you what I'm talking about and just quit gibbering and jabbering and actually jump in and show you what I mean. So in the first element, which is number and complexity of problems addressed, right now, just right off the bat, you have a definition. You have something we need to define. What do we mean when we say problems addressed? The AMA is very clear about what they mean by that. And to show you, I will go back to the source document, and right about page, if you're following along on this is page 3 of the source document, the guidelines, we'll call it the guidelines document. If you dig into where it says number and complexity of problems addressed, if you dig in here, there's actually a definition right here for what a problem addressed is. A problem is addressed or managed when it is evaluated or treated at the encounter by the physician or other qualified healthcare professional reporting the service. This includes consideration of further testing or treatment that may not be elected by either virtue of risk-benefit analysis or the patient-parent guarantee or surrogate choice. So what they're saying is you may have a decision, you may decide, say patient presents with a problem, and you may decide that a certain test or a certain treatment is a good idea, or you may think about a certain test or treatment for this condition, and you may decide not to elect it by virtue of risk-benefit analysis. So you take a look at the patient and you say, you know what, we could do this test, but this test is actually more dangerous to the patient than necessary. The test doesn't really, or the test or treatment is definitely not worth the risk to the patient. But because you considered it and because you documented it, you can count that as a problem addressed. Now, this is where they get clear on some things. It says notation in the patient's medical record that another professional is managing the problem without additional assessment or care coordination documented does not qualify as being addressed or managed by the physician or other health care professional reporting the service. So let's think about this from, say, a family practice standpoint. Say you have a patient that comes into the office and they have osteoarthritis or something like that. And all you mention is patient has osteoarthritis and they're being seen by rheumatology or something like that, or whoever. Say you have a patient that you don't do anything, you're not going to order any labs, you're not going to prescribe any drugs, you're just mentioning that they have a condition that another provider is managing. you don't get to count that as a problem addressed. I realize that probably needs to be in your impression and plan for the sake of good medical care, but it would not be counted towards your level. Referral without evaluation, history exam or decision or diagnostic studies, or consideration of treatment does not qualify as being addressed or managed by the provider. So if you just refer the patient and you don't do any kind of evaluation or workup or even history, you just go, oh yeah, patient's complaining of this, so I sent them to this person or this provider, then you don't get to count that. Let's see. There are other things that are defined here, lots of other things, and we'll come back to some of those as we go through this table. But that's what problem addressed is. To finish watching this video, click the next video, which will be 2021 EM Changes MDM Part 2. Thanks.